Hello fellow Victorians, this video is for showing my play as Denmark, trying to be a financial power. To tell you a bit about myself, I've been playing Victoria since the very first one, then I played Victoria 2, I loved it, and now I'm playing Victoria 3. So I've been playing with France and Germany. Those were very big plays with a lot of things to do, and it got me wishing to play a smaller country with a focused goal. So I chose, especially after charters of commerce, I chose to play a small country trying to be a financial power, that is, to have the economy reliant exclusively on investments, on the dividends that you can take from the financial districts or from the companies. We are at the turn of the century, and let's make a first review of my progress so far. First, have I reached my goal? Not really, as the economy we're going to see in details. The economy is not exclusively dependent on the dividends. It's also dependent on some advanced industries. It also has some normal industries or resources. So let's look at the building registry to see how many people are working for finance. So as you can see, the first employer are the urban centers, which is unavoidable, of course. Same thing with the trade centers that are necessary to replace all the production that I'm not doing in the country. And now we have the electrics and automotive industries, which are very profitable, very desirable, but we want to live without them. Same thing for the livestock ranches, which produce the vast majority of the food consumed in the country, but we have to do without them. Now, here are the financial districts, which already have more than 50,000 employees, over a total of 1 million employees. So that's good, but still not enough. We have the ports, also unavoidable, and now the manor houses and the company headquarters. So all together, they represent 53, 40, 90, and so about 130,000 people employed in there, and we wanted to reach much more than that. We'll have to, of course, we still need the urban trade centers, the ports, we have here the construction sectors. It will even have to grow up so that they can keep on building new assets. We have the motors till it will go away, power plants will have them, but not as much, since they won't have to produce electricity for industries. We'll keep the naval base, so I haven't said it now, but I have a very, very small army, almost nothing. The government administration stays, we'll try to keep it to a minimum, of course. Barracks, not very much, shipyards will go, and the university, I wish to have more of them. Railway, we won't need a lot of them. And we have the skyscraper, well, it's just 1,000 employees, so it's almost negligible now. And all of this should go away, and we'll just have the trade centers allow us to import everything that we need. So there are 7 lessons that I have already learned from trying to make the economy dependent on exclusively financial investments. So the first lesson is that it's not easy to obtain investment rights. The problem is that if your GDP is smaller than that of the other country, then it is very unlikely to accept giving you investment rights. Let's look at an example. So here I'm trying to get investment rights from Belgium. I have a GDP of 23 million. They have a GDP of 33 million, so it's not a lot more than mine. And if I try to get the investment rights, as you can see, I have a minus 37 of acceptance. So even with an obligation, we are not yet on par. So it's not easy, and it's even hardest with, say, for example, Germany. So here I'll try to get investment rights for them, and as you can see, the acceptance is minus 100. I did not notice that problem before, probably because I was playing big countries with, if not the top GDP, at least one of the highest of the world. And so you have to find a balance between playing a country small enough so that it's not too hard, it doesn't take too long to make the economy depending exclusively on financial investments, but at the same time you should have a big enough GDP to at least be able to get investment rights from many different countries. Now I could have tried to become a client state from a big power and maybe bargain investment rights in exchange of that, but I didn't want to become too dependent on a big power. I wanted to stay sort of neutral. At some point, however, I was able to get investment rights from America. I don't know how I did it, but it really helped. It gave a lot of opportunities to invest. Second lesson. It was very hard at first to find opportunities to invest, but with time it became much easier as technology progressed, as my own country progressed. I had more and more opportunities. So now, after the turn of the century, I have a lot of opportunities, and it will be quite easy to find them for the next 30 years. Third lesson, this one was really unexpected, is that the clergy and landlords stayed very relevant politically. This is simply because of my investment strategy. It made the manors get a lot of money, and because of that, the landlords and even the clergy, because the clergy works in the manors, they kept a lot of political power, especially since I moved only to a constitutional monarchy with census suffrage. That made them very important. So I regret trying to prop up the intelligentsia. I should have kept on laws that favored the landlords and the clergy. Fourth lesson, companies helped a lot my strategy. First, because the company headquarters count as buildings that live off financial investments. Second, because they have a lot of bonuses for developing buildings, for also exploiting them. And third, because they can operate abroad, of course. So for now, most of my companies have invested in my own country, especially the Danish Motor, which builds automotive factories, and the Electric Syndicate of Denmark, which builds electric industries. But I can see a future where they are going to own exclusively assets abroad. Fifth lesson, you must carefully select which countries you get investment rights from, as your diplomacy is limited, especially as a small country. The countries you will invest in often lack engines, so you must help them with that, with just transferring goods to them. So this implies that you can get a source of engines. Some countries have a lot of potential, but they have low technology, so you must help them a little so that they can start getting rich, and then let them grow their technology. You might even lose their investment rights from some time, and then come back to them to help them grow more. It's a sort of hamster wheel, because you will often lose investment rights, especially as the country develops and as its GDP gets bigger than yours. So you have to find always some new countries to invest in. You must also add construction capacity, of course, as in any game, but there you have to do that in tandem with your investments in various countries. And you can also help another country by building trade centers in them. Sixth lesson, trade centers are very important as they can replace all the industries and resources that you are not building. Once I saw that the AI tend to not build them enough, especially after the peasants disappeared, so I built a couple dozens trade centers all at once, and I saw the standard of living for the whole country jump, just because they were not importing enough, so all prices were expensive and they became almost normal after I built a lot of trade centers all at once. Seventh lesson, this one I saw coming even before this play, is that you really need proportional taxation. Of course, it's hard to get, especially at the beginning of the game, but it's very important because most of your revenue, if not all, will come from dividends, and this is not taxed by the per capita taxation, so you have to pass this law so that you get more money. You will need it, especially for universities. I really felt the need during the late 90s, as you need to research more technologies that cost a lot more. Before that, with just the 50 points in education that you get in innovation, sorry, that you get automatically. It was enough, but then I really started to need this university. So now I have to really pass the proportional taxation law. Now, let's say a word about the general state of the world in 1905. Well, there's nothing too surprising. Germany is formed, the US are almost formed, Latin America looks almost normal, Africa is getting colonized, it's not finished yet. When I used to play bigger powers and participate in colonization, it used to go a lot faster. India is free, and so is Indonesia, which is very important because it creates a lot of opportunities to invest. While before, when they were colonized, usually you cannot get the investment rights. So it's a lot easier for my goal. The WeBinU will be interested in knowing that Japan has become some sort of communist state. But that's all. Really nothing special. As for Denmark, well, I have given up on a lot of colonial possessions and anything outside of Denmark. I've given up on Schleswig-Holstein, of course. I knew it was not defensible. That's not the point. I kept Iceland and Greenland really because I like to have the free interest. I also kept Dutch Carnatic there, again just for the interest, especially since I'm investing in the region in India. I've given up on the rest. I used to develop the Togo possession, but I let it go. I still have a lot of investments there, but it's not very important in my strategy. As you can see, the GDP ownership, okay, I still own 48% of their GDP. So regarding Denmark, it has its two main provinces. Zeeland is the main province. It has 1.64 million inhabitants on a total of 3.7 millions. It's very rich, of course, very developed. And so is Jutland, 1.74 millions, also very prosperous. Let's have a look at the big numbers. So the GDP is almost 20 million. It's only the 40th of the world, of course, since I have a very small country. I don't have the highest GDP per capita. That goes to different countries. But of course, I have the highest standard of living. And by a margin, you see the second one is Los Altos with 20, while I have 22.3. The Netherlands are doing well with 20 also, and Canada is at 18, etc. So it's very advanced. I have a good rate of literacy with 85%. And for the rest, the politics are quite good with a lot of loyalists, not too many radicals, and a lot of them are really in Iceland and Greenland, and it's really the minorities. Of course, if you take a look at the interest groups, my petite bourgeoisie is very strong, so I have to cater to them, especially with the law regarding national supremacy. And of course, the minorities don't like it very much. That's why I'm sometimes thinking of giving up on Iceland and Greenland, but as I said, the interest that I have there is very interesting. They don't have a lot of population, 148,000 in Iceland and 62,000 in Greenland. Their resources are not even that interesting. In Greenland there are some fishing wharves and more importantly whaling stations, so it gives a little oil, but it's really negligible. And as I said, the goal is to not even use it anyway. So I would rather keep just Zeeland and Jutland. Let's now have a look at the financial assets in my country, since that's the main course of my strategy. Let's start with the financial districts and the one in Zeeland. As you can see, the portfolio is not very diversified. It's mainly assets in our country, and it's mainly in industries, which should change with time. If we sort them by dividends, you can see that the top earners are in Denmark, but still we have some investments that are working, and they are a bit diversified. There are some in Italy, some in Togo, our former colony, some in Belgium, etc. And in terms of productivity, well, then again, the top is really trusted by Danish companies, so that's a bit sad because we will have to let them go. Even the power plants, well, the power plants are not going away, but if we have less industries, we will need less power plants in Denmark at least. But still, we have some investments. The one in Belgium have been done really at the beginning of the game, but the rest is a bit diversified. Same thing in Jutland. It's not very different. Most of the portfolio is still in Denmark, but there's a little in Belgium and Savoia. But as I said, it was done rather at the beginning. For Belgium, it was really at the beginning of the game, and Savoia in Italy, it was rather mid-game. I don't think I can get the investment rights again now from those countries, since their GDP is a lot higher than mine. So in terms of dividends, it's a bit more diversified than what we saw from Zealand. So we have some investments a bit everywhere, some here in Turkey, some in our former colonies, some in Central America, where I still have investment rights. And in terms of productivity, again, it's mostly Danish investments, but still a little from Italy and Belgium. So as we can realize, it's often developed countries that are that bring more productivity. It's a bit of a problem because they tend to have higher GDP, so it's harder to get investment rights from them. So when I will select where to get which countries to get investment rights from, I will have to favor as much as possible developed countries. And now there is a financial district in Iceland. It's very small, but interestingly, all their investments are abroad and in countries where I recently got investment rights. So that's the future, but for now it's very small. They only have 400 employees max. Now let's look at the manor houses. As I said, they have been doing surprisingly well. At least I was not expecting that. So the ones in Zealand, they have a diversified portfolio. It's not all in Denmark. In terms of dividends, they mainly get their resources from America. So as I said, from sometimes, I don't even remember how I did it, but I had investment rights from them. So the manor houses really benefited from that. But still, they have some investments that are earning in various countries, including countries where I still have investment rights, like those countries in Asia. And in terms of productivity, it's diversified. It's interesting. Not just developed countries. You have some in Central America where I still have investment rights. The manor houses in Jutland are similar. The portfolio is a bit less diversified, but still they have some investments abroad. And in terms of dividend, it's there again mostly America. And in terms of productivity, it's dominated by either Denmark or former colonies. So then again, I have to try to get investment rights mostly from a developed country, if that's possible. Now for the company headquarters, it's very important. It works in a different way because, as you know, they cannot invest in any industries. And so for this Danish Motor Incorporated, as usual, it's mostly investments in Denmark, but not only, and it's going to be even more, I hope. They have to invest more. They can invest both in automotive industries, but also in motor industries, which will be very important, I think. So in terms of dividends, they mostly get their revenues from Denmark, but I hope it's going to change. And in terms of productivity, it's also mostly Danish companies, but not only. I have some good productivity from Russia, from even from Asia and Turkey. Now with the next company, the Electric Syndicate. So they have almost only investments in Denmark, but hopefully it's going to change. As I said, the AI is not very good when it comes to make the first industry of a type, but then it can extend. So I will have to choose personally to buy and build electric industries in foreign countries, and then the AI will continue with the investments directly from the company, which also has bonuses, so I hope they will follow suit. Next company, it's the Jutland Fabrics, who are supposed to do, well, mostly clothes, but they also have wrenches, and they have a lot of them. And they also had the trade rights, and they used it a lot. As you can see, their portfolio is mostly trade centers from Denmark, but not only. In terms of revenue, they mostly get their money from Denmark, but they also have a lot of profitable trade centers in India. So that's interesting. I think I built them myself, so I'll have to keep doing that each time I see a country having high prices because it doesn't have enough trade centers. Then I will come. I will have to pay it with state money, so it's a bit bothering because it favors debt, but at least in the end the company will buy them back. So it created a situation where this company has an extremely high productivity. It's a bit weird. So I will try to remove trade centers from them because I think they have enough, and the trade centers in Denmark are not going away at all. On the contrary, they will have to expand. So it will still be very profitable for them. And currently there is a bug, I think, that prevents me from removing trade rights. I hope it will be fixed very soon. And the last company for now, it's Danish Home Goods. So they should be doing furnitures. They have diversified assets, with a lot of them in Central America, which is good. It goes in the right direction. And most of their revenue are coming from abroad, which is good. It's the future. And in terms of productivities, well, I see a bit more here, some assets in Denmark, but not only, in the former colonies, some in Asia. So there again, it's going in the right direction. Let's take another look at trade. So for now, I'm exporting a lot of automobiles and telephones, but I want to stop that because I will have to focus everything on the financial districts and all. But I shouldn't give up on the benefit from it. I should build automotives and electrics industries in other countries and then let them export. I will hopefully still get a lot of revenue from doing that, but I will also lose a few things like the prestige that comes with production. As you can see now, I'm the world #1 producer of automobiles. So that's 40 prestige, which is a lot for me, especially as a small state. And for telephones, I'm the second biggest producer in the world. Now, the automotives and electrics industries also need a lot of inputs, like a lot of engines, a lot of steel, a lot of iron from both for both the telephones and the automobiles. So I'm going to have to move all that, try to develop iron mines in other countries, develop steel and engine production, especially the engines, because they are also consumed a lot from other countries for various purposes. So that's the plan for the next 30 years. Let's look again at trade, but this time in terms of foreign partners. So they are the big exports that I'm going to get rid of, but just to have a look, you can see that I am exporting to many important countries like France, Germany, Russia, United Kingdom, etc. Same for the phones. A lot of them go to France, to the United Kingdom, to Sweden also, to Germany. So it just shows that they are good partners for now, but that's not the future again. I'm going to have to get rid of that. So let's rather look at the staple goods, because I'm going to import them. I'm already importing them, and I will have to import even more of them. So in terms of clothes, they mostly come from France, not very surprising. The groceries also come from France, but also a bit from different countries. Here you have Sicilia, so maybe it will become Italy. The merchant marine, well, you know, there is a sort of a bug where it's overproduced everywhere, but anyway. And the paper comes mostly from various countries. I'm not too dependent on one of them, Java, France and Germany. Now let's look at the luxury products. A lot of ceramics come from Germany, but also from France and from Japan. Coffee comes a bit from everywhere. mostly from France, but also Sataran, so it's in India, and I think that I'm investing in it. So ideally, my foreign products should come from industries that I control. Same thing for the tea. It's quite diverse, mostly from China, but also from Java. And as for luxury clothes, they mostly come from France, no surprise here. Italy is not there. But I don't have a company that invests in luxury clothes, so that will have to be a real import. Now about politics, as I said, my country became a constitutional monarchy. Just because at some point the landlords, who stayed very strong, as I also explained, they had a leader who was a Democrat, so it helped moving there. I don't want to move, I don't really need to move toward full democracy, just because everyone is rich in the country, so everyone has a vote, and there's really no pressure to do it. The only thing, as I said, I regret is that since the landlords and the intelligentsia stayed strong, I really had the landlords and the church stayed strong. I should have kept laws that favored them rather than the intelligentsia. But that's not a big problem now. Let's have a look at the population, at the census data. So as you can see, the clerks and laborers are the vast majority. Of course, the clerks, since instead of having a lot of industries and resource gathering operations, that's Victoria 2 speaking, I have trade centers in their place. So the clerks from the trade centers and from the financial districts and all, they make up a large part of the population. I still have laborers, if only for the urban centers, which I cannot get rid of. Then I have machinists, shopkeepers, of course, a lot of them, and engineers. So that's a nice population. The capitalists stand at 136,000, which is nice. I want even more of them. And regarding political strength, well, with census voting, the capitalists are really very strong, so are the aristocrats, shopkeepers, engineers. So that's very nice. In terms of states, as I said, Jutland and Zeeland are the vast majority of the population, almost half-half. Culture is, of course, mainly Danish. Then you have some minorities who are usually unhappy because of my national supremacy laws. And the vast majority is Protestant. Now let's have a look at the population. The biggest chunks of them are, as you already know, clerks. They are doing well with a standard of living of 19. 21, you see the biggest group are living rather well. It's only the laborers who are not doing so well. They are working in the livestock ranches, so they should disappear with time, probably going to construction instead. And I have here a large group of engineers doing quite well. Now let's take a look at the population in order of standard of living, and let's make sure that I only have large groups, at least 1,000 individuals. And as you can see, the richest groups are, of course, capitalists, aristocrats. Then we can see that shopkeepers from the financial districts are among the richest, who are not among the rich class. So it's a good strategy. I have the officers who are doing well, but as I said, I have a very small army, so I don't count on them. Then more shopkeepers from financial districts, some bureaucrats. Well, I don't want to develop that too much. Clergymen from the manor houses are also doing very well. As I said, it changed the politics. And then you have some engineers, that's from an industry, so it should disappear, ideally. Some bureaucrats from the skyscraper, that's interesting. And then you have other people from the manor houses. So I need to keep with this strategy, move everyone, especially to the financial districts, manor houses and company headquarters. And of course I will have to keep the trade centers and the rest. They are not doing too bad, so that's good. Let's have a look at the budget. It is very small. Now of course it looks bigger because of the investment pool transfer, but really I'm only collecting 24,000 in income taxes, which is minuscule, 13 in poll taxes. I only have one consumption tax on the luxury clothes. I think at some point I put another consumption tax because I really needed more money. Minting is interesting because minting reflects the GDP, so it grew up a lot. Then the investment pool transfer, that doesn't really count. Some construction goods. Of course, some of it is for the private investments, but I also have my own constructions. That's also why I'm 6 million pounds in debt, because the AI is not very good at investing, especially when you have no more peasants or unemployed people left. Then it cannot really optimize the existing production. Except for companies, my automotive and electrics companies were able to build a lot of levels of buildings, their respective industries, of course. Not so much for trade. I had to manually build many levels of trades, although I have trade rights for different companies. They almost all have trade rights, but they don't really build trade centers, even in Denmark itself. So for the budget, I have some spendings, not too much also, it's quite small, and some military, but there again, my military is very small and almost negligible. I have some subsidies, and that's really because of the infrastructure problems. I try as much as possible not to have subsidies, but then the infrastructure collapse, and it creates problem, of course, with the world access, world market access. That's not enough. And some interest, yeah, it's quite big, so I have to reduce my debt. I'll try not to build so much. I only have to build at least to make some trade centers, and fortunately they are getting bought back then by companies, so it doesn't cost as much as it should. And then I also have to sometime build a first building of a specific industry, because there again the AI is not very good at making the very first building. It's good at developing buildings that already work, but not for the very first one. And not too much unrealized taxes. Maybe I'll add another government administration, although I don't think it's worth the trouble. Let's have a look at the tax burden on the population. As usual, there is a higher tax burden on the lower and middle strata than on the upper strata, since the revenue from dividends are not taxed. But it's not too much. They have an excess in the lower strata and very slight deficit, I don't know why, on the middle strata, and of course the upper strata has a lot of money left that they can reinvest, which is a good thing. Then you can take a look at the main consumptions. What's the most expensive? Life is rather expensive in Denmark, especially since I'm not producing very much, and I will produce hopefully nothing. So a lot of things are expensive. Regarding the technology, there is not a lot to say. I have a very small country and not a lot of universities, so I think I'm a bit lagging. I still have the last 2 tiers to discover for the production and society. So there are a lot of interesting things coming, especially in society. Optimization, like for example, you saw previously that the services were a bit expensive. Now still have arcades to find. I'm currently working on Zeppelins, which will bring a better market access price impact. And on the military, I'm severely lagging, but as I said, it's not relevant to my strategy. So now for the last 30 years to play, how do I plan on achieving my goal? Well, I have to carefully select the countries where I will invest, from which I will get investment rights. I have to help them grow, especially their technology. I have to add more construction capacity, of course. I also have to try to organize trade, as I'm not producing in my country, and I will produce less and less and nothing. I have to select countries and to specialize them. Like for example, choose one country that has some mining potential and help them make a lot of steel and maybe also tools and engines. And then another country that has some agricultural potential, well, to help them produce more food by using, while at the same time they import the engines they will need from the other countries, etc. And so I really have to organize the trade. And finally, I have to pass proportional taxation and build a lot more universities.